Everybody, it's Grandmaster Ben Finegold here once again with Kid Chess. And today I want to show you the end of a really famous game. What's funny is sometimes when you see games that have amazing puzzle qualities, where there's made in a million moves or a million sacrifices, if the game was played 50, 100, 150 years ago, sometimes that wasn't really the game. It's a puzzle or it's a variation in the game. And I was always suspicious that this didn't happen in the game because it's so beautiful. And this was just like some analysis. However, I mentioned that in a video that I made a long time ago. And the guy who won the game, his grandson sent me an email and said, no, that was my grandfather's game. And here's the article in the newspaper and so forth. Okay. So we'll just say that it happened, because it probably did. Okay, so this is an endgame. Black has a lot of extra pawns, so black's winning. But black won in the most beautiful way ever. This is one of the most amazing things you're ever going to see. Now, I put black at the bottom. Usually I put white at the bottom. So black's going up the board. You're seeing it from black's point of view. Okay, so obviously in an endgame, you want to promote a pawn to a queen, because then you have an extra queen. All right, so in this position, the closest black pawn to promoting is this one, but that's stopped by this and stopped by this. So it doesn't look like it's going to queen. So this is a very famous breakthrough, okay? I've seen it many times from this game, and every year, every 2 years, I'm like, oh yeah, that's just great. So black got rid of both of the blockaders of this advanced pawn with a rook sacrifice. Rook takes b2. Now white doesn't have to take the rook, but well then black just took a free pawn. And black's probably going to take this pawn. And black is up a lot of pawns. Okay, so you got to take the rook, and then the game gets interesting. Okay. Now black tries to promote that pawn. Okay, so if it was black's turn to move, which it's not, he would take the knight, and then he would promote the pawn. Easy. Okay, so white has to find a move where he's stopping black from promoting the pawn. If you play the knight here, here, or here, those are all possible, well, then black just pushes the pawn in. For example, let's play, I don't know, here. c2, and then you make a queen next move. Okay, there's a really obvious move that stops the pawn from promoting. That's knight d3, because the knight controls the promoting square. Aha! That was black's point. There's a bishop on b6, and there's a king on g1. You always have to watch for pieces that are lined up. It's always advantageous to somebody. When it's a bishop and a king, that's good for the bishop. So we play c4, which is check, discovered check. Okay, and then we take the knight, and black's going to make a queen. Those pawns are too strong. Okay, now white saw all of that, so white played a very nice move. Rook takes bishop. That defends his knight. Okay, so if you take the knight, I just take, and white's winning. And if you take the rook, now when you play knight d3, stopping this pawn, there's no check on your king. And white's doing well here too. The knight is blocking the pawn from queening. Okay. So in this position, black can play c2, trying to queen, promote his pawn. But white plays knight to d3, and that pawn's not going to promote. Okay, so here, black played an amazing move. And then he played another amazing move. So black wants to play c2 and c1, promoting his pawn. But if he does, white plays knight d3 and blocks the pawn. So black played a move that stops knight d3. What move can black play that stops knight d3? There's only one move that does it. c4. Okay, So black is down a rook and a knight. That doesn't sound good. But if it's black's turn to move, play c2 and c1. Makes a queen. How does white stop that? Well, there's one way to stop it. It doesn't work, but it's the only way to stop it. If you put the rook behind the pawns, let's go here. Now, if black blunders and plays c2, then white's winning. White stops the pawns. But after rook c6, black wins easily. He just takes the knight. And now that pawn promotes. You can't stop that pawn. Okay, so white played the only move that stops the pawns from queening, rook to b4. Okay, that stops the pawns from queening on the b file and the c file. If you take the knight, I just take it, and white's winning. And if you play c2, I play rook takes, and white's winning. Okay, so black sacrificed his rook, black played c4, and now black played another fantastic move. And after this move, it's pretty clear that white's losing. Notice, white's up a rook and a knight, but if black promotes his pawn, he'll have an extra queen and he'll win. The amazing move is a5, attacking the rook. Incredible. Now, if I take the rook, I'm going to make a lot of queens, so you can't let me take the rook. If you play knight takes c4, I play c2, and you can't stop the pawn. The pawn's going to promote. If you play rook takes c4, I take the knight, and my pawn on a5 stops rook b4. So the pawn's going to promote. If you play rook a4, I still take the knight, and this pawn's still going to promote because you still can't play rook b4. If you play knight d1, I think more than one move wins. I could take this and win, or I can just play c2 and win. They both win. Okay. And after a5, white gave up because there's no way to stop the pawns from queening. Now, there's two possibilities. We're going to go with one of them. Black saw everything when he sacrificed his rook several moves ago, and he's a genius. We'll go with that. The other possibility, which is probably equally as likely, is that maybe white made a move he missed, and he was like, oh no, oh wait, okay, I'm still winning. I don't know what happened. We'll just go with he's a genius, and he saw all of this. Let's do that. Okay, so let's go back and see what a genius he was. He sacrificed his rook. He played c3, and then after taking, he played c4, which is an amazing move. The only point of this move is to promote your pawn to a queen and stop knight to d3. And then after here, he played a5. If he saw all of that when he sacrificed his rook, that's amazing because it's a forced win. And even the chess computers today have a lot of trouble seeing that. But when you show them, they're like, oh yeah, that's winning. Good job. That's how difficult that was. Chess can be really difficult. What you need to do is find your opponent's defenses to your attack and see if you can do anything about them. That's what black did. Black tried to promote his pawn. He saw the way white could defend, but he was ready for that. And in this position, there's nothing white can do to stop those pawns. Every time I see this, it's amazing. The three pawns beat up on the rook and knight because they're going to promote to a queen. An amazing finish, an amazing game. And the grandson wrote me an email and said, that's my grandfather. So there you go. So one of the greatest combinations ever at the end of the game. What was the point? Promote your pawns. If you have an endgame, that's the number one thing you want to do is promote your pawns, hopefully to queens. I hope you liked that as much as I did. I'm Grandmaster Ben Finegold for Kid Chess. Until next time, bye kids.